So learning lines. This has been something that I personally have really struggled with over the years, which has kind of held me back as an actor. And I've had lots of advice. Things like remember the first letter of every word, make sure that you are relaxed when you learn your lines, take your script into the bath, light some candles, all sorts of things. And there are many techniques out there that do work for other people. But I want to show you a technique that works for me. And this technique is really good for people with ADHD or dyslexia, because what it does, it ensures that the lines actually are remembered using a different part of your brain. And we do that by assigning imagery and movement to each line as you learn them. So what you're going to need is very simple. You need a room. I'm currently in my office. You don't really need that much space at all. You need some post-its and you need a pen. And of course you need your speech. I've picked a monologue. So I'm going to use the first 3 lines to show you how to do this technique. So you read the first line, and the first line here is, "Dear Ava, I probably didn't get your last letter." And you can take it up to the punctuation, or you can just leave it to the kind of first thought. So, "Dear Ava, I probably didn't get your last letter." Do you get your post-it note? And you need to draw an image that will remind you of that first thought. No words, just imagery. So for this one, I will draw a letter. Like so. So that is the image for the first thought or first line. Then I can move on to the next, which is, "Because when I married Mr. Marshall." So for this one, I am going to draw, and you'll have to excuse my art here. A bride. So that will remind me of that line. And I'm just going to move on to the next line, which is, "I moved house." So for that one, I'm going to draw a house. So you don't need to use any words. It just needs to be an image, and do it as simple as possible, because you need to get through these lines quickly. So now I've got the first 3 images to match the first 3 thoughts. Let's move on to the next part. I've changed the camera angle because this is where we're going to get on our feet. So you take your first post-it with your first image, and you place yourself in the center of the room. So this is your anchor point. This is where you're going to start your speech every time you run your lines. So you get your first post-it and put it in a spot, and it can be anywhere in the room. It doesn't matter where you start, because eventually your room's going to be covered with these post-its. So I'm going to put it on the wall just here. Okay. And you can remind yourself of that first line. So, "Dear Ava, I probably didn't get your last letter." So we start from the center of the room. We face the post-it, the first post-it, and we walk towards it looking at that image. "Dear Ava, I probably didn't get your last letter." Okay, and now we can move on to the next post-it. So here is the picture of the bride, and I'm just going to put it off camera. I've got a printer just here, so I'm going to stick it on that. And check that line. So that line was, "Because when I married Mr. Marshall." So I'm going to start in the center again. I turn round. "Dear Ava, I probably didn't get your last letter because I married Mr. Marshall." And if you didn't quite get that or remember it, you can keep checking the lines in your book or on your script, and you can just keep repeating those 2 lines. So, "Dear Ava, I probably didn't get your last letter because I married Mr. Marshall." And then we're going to move on to the next one, which is the house. So if I'm going to stick this on my chair here, and you can stick them at all levels. In fact, the more interesting the journey that you're taking, the better you will remember these lines. So if I put that one there. So let's start in the centre again. Dear Ava, I probably didn't get your last letter. Because I married Mr. Marshall, I moved house. And what's really important here is that you're not thinking about how you're going to say these lines. You are saying them as neutral as possible. The important thing is that you're assigning them to your memory. So once you've assigned those first 3 lines or first few lines to your memory, it's time to move on to the rest of the script. So I'm going to get on with it. Okay, so once you have done a section of your speech, your room should be completely covered in post-its. And if anyone walks in there, they're going to think you're completely bonkers. But do leave the room like it, because it means that you have a space where you can go in and rewalk that speech if something hasn't stuck. And you can do it in bits. You don't need to carve out 2 hours doing this to learn the entire speech. You can learn a section at a time. And hand on heart, for me, this ensures that lines are remembered in a completely different way. They feel more accessible to me. I'm not grabbing for them as I deliver them. So for public speaking speeches, monologues, or even plays where you've got duologues, you can apply this technique. I hope it works for you. I'm Hannah Marquez. I'm from the Actor Rebellion. You can follow me on LinkedIn, or you can follow us on Instagram at the Actor Rebellion. Thank you.